you saw Apocalypse Now, that you know what that unit does. So I think that's very good that she provided logistical support for the 1st Cavalry Division now in Fort Hood. She was also a professor at West Point during this period. She retired as a lieutenant colonel in 1997, and she devoted herself to the Texas GOP. First, she wanted to meet everyone in Texas, so she became chief of staff to a state representative in Austin, and she got flashcards of all the people's names. And then she quickly worked her way up, and she became president of the Texas Federation of Republican Women. And I worked on the Ted Cruz campaign last summer, and I realized how important the Republican women's clubs are in a state like Texas for grassroots organizing. Since then, she's now been the National Committee woman for Texas with the Republican National Committee since 2009. And later this month, they will be meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina, a state that was taken back from blue to red, and they will be voting for the new chairman of the Republican National Committee. It looks like the incumbent will be reelected, but that's that's where we are. So without any further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Borah Van Dormolen. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. I'm probably the only one in the room that knows that the chairman of the RNC, his name is pronounced Reince Priebus. I'm going to put this other microphone away so we don't collecting business cards. No, I'm just kidding. Putting away flags. Not that I talk with my hands, but okay. For all the ladies in the crowd, 23 years of military service meant that I didn't have to decide what to wear in the morning for 23 years. Heaven. So, before I really get down to talking about what I was advertised to talk about, which of course I'm completely unqualified to tell you how to do outreach, I want to tell you a little bit about my background. My great-grandfather came from Holland to America in the late 1800s. He came here because we were recovering from the Civil War, and he was looking for a better environment to be able to support his family. He was leaving a government that dictated things to come to America to be able to have a better life. His name was Van Dormolen. I have kept my maiden name because I got married while I was on active duty in the military. Those of us who have been in the military know that when you get promoted, you may be looked at for about 5 minutes, and they make a decision, and I didn't want to disappear. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. So that was important to me. My grandfather came here not looking for Social Security, not looking for welfare, but looking for a better life in a very unique country called the United States. He fathered 3 children. The oldest of the 3 children was named John Bull. It's a famous name out of London. That was a fictional character that was a gentleman that talked about politics. The second son he named George Washington. Now that's being proud of being an American. And my grandfather was named Theodore Roosevelt. When my grandfather was named Theodore Roosevelt was the police chief of New York City. So he recognized strength and dignity in a gentleman that we did not know was going to someday be the President of the United States. I'm pleased that we didn't continue that. Eleanor Roosevelt Van Dormolen would never fit on that Iowa basic skills test. But I digress. My aunt and my father always felt that they were children of immigrants who were servants. My grandmother that married Theodore Roosevelt Van Dormolen was of German descent, and that she cleaned houses, and my grandfather, my dad's father, learned to drive Fort Bliss, Texas, World War I, learned to drive a truck, and ended up being a driver in his adult life after World War I, and ended up driving for Garrett A. Hobart, For those of you who are not big historians, he was the vice president to President McKinley. So Theodore Roosevelt Van Dormolen, chauffeur to Garrett A. Hobart, got to meet Theodore Roosevelt, who would eventually become vice president with McKinley, who then would eventually become president when we assassinated McKinley. Don't you love American history? It's just such a unique life that we have. My dad is a World War II veteran, and he raised a daughter that recognized how important and how unique America is. Growing up with my sister, we were sat around the kitchen table just like we are today, discussing everything under the sun. And my mom and dad impressed upon my sister and I that we were being raised by the 3 R's. And they weren't reading, writing, and arithmetic, because you couldn't spell those 3 with R's. They were respect, responsibility, and resourcefulness. To this day, I do not know what Mrs. Cooper's first name is, who is the mother of my best friend. Because we were expected to call Mrs. Cooper, Mrs. Cooper. We were expected to call Mr. Cooper, Mr. Cooper, and if Mrs. Cooper told us that we were doing something wrong and told us to stop, we were supposed to respond, yes, ma'am. We were supposed to respect our neighbor's house. So when we were over there playing, you didn't trash their house like we weren't expected their kids be trashing our house. We respected our neighbors with the dignity that they deserved. When we went to a restaurant like we're in tonight, we were expected to respect the other diners and to act like young children. Responsibility was not only to our household, but it exceeded that. If my dad was going to work hard to put food on the table and my mother was going to work hard to cook the food to put on the table, then the daughters were going to contribute and take their responsibility and to do the dishes. And that it was a family affair. I learned about politics sitting at the kitchen table. We would take votes on where we were going on vacation. I learned that sometimes your vote counts, sometimes it doesn't. If we were going to get an allowance, we had to earn that allowance because we had a responsibility to do chores. My mom had a system that if you put anything in the laundry basket inside out, it cost you a nickel. So when it came time for allowance, she normally would tell me I owed her 10 cents. To this day, I cannot stand anything inside out in the laundry. So when I got married to an infantryman, who, like most of you gentlemen, probably grab the bottom of your t-shirt, pull it up over your head, and it's instantly inside out. Every other washing, his shirt was right side in. And he didn't care. I mean, how many of us, anybody else been in the military? All right. How many of you went to work with your shirt inside out and could care less? It's like you never knew when you had a blue and a black sock on. It's the first thing we saw when we were up at West Point if a cadet had a blue and black sock on. Couldn't wait to get them. Resourcefulness, though, out of the 3 R's, was the fact that we were supposed to empower ourselves with a skill by going to school and doing well in school. Also, what drives me crazy, and I swear to God you're going to recognize this, if I went to school and it was gym day and I forgot my sneakers, I had no phone to pick up and call my mom and say, "Mom, I forgot my sneakers." And how many of us now know kids that are going to school saying, "Mom, I forgot my sneakers," and what does mom do? Drops everything and drives the sneakers to school. If I had had a phone and called my mom and said, "Mom, I forgot my sneakers," you know what she would have said? "I guess you won't forget them next time." There was a personal responsibility for us to be able to take care of ourselves. There was a personal responsibility for us to and I'm sure there's folks my age in here, the teacher used to give us the note to take home to our parents. There was no emailing, there was no tweeting, there was no messaging, and what did we do as kids? We took it home. We handed it to our parents knowing there was going to be repercussions, because the teacher was God in the classroom. And if she said Dick Cooper and Borah were misbehaving, Dick Cooper and Borah were in trouble. And that's the way it was. Now you're wondering, this has nothing to do with why you invited me to come speak. And I think it has everything to do with what we're talking about. We are in a cultural war right now, where the essence of America is being forgotten, and we've got to get it back. What makes America so unique, 237 years ago, when our forefathers recognized that the first thing we need to do is to define where our rights come from. And they defined it as, our rights don't come from a king, they don't come from a government, they don't come from a general, they're ordained by God. And they said that all men are created equal in the eyes of God. Not all men in America, not all males in North America, but all men are created equal. And from that comes certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Simple notion. Liberty and freedom come from the fact that we have certain individual rights. So much so that this is the only nation that will send its sons and daughters off to foreign nations to protect their individual rights. That's what makes America so unique. Because what happened then was prosperity that has been unmatched by any other country. Because all we had to do was use our God-given talents. And even today, if we have a better idea. My husband and I started a business after we retired. We sunk our entire life savings into building and manufacturing an outdoor electric grill. We started it in our garage, probably violating some zoning law. But we had a better idea. We are now in our 4th location. We sell electric grills worldwide. The entire Canadian fleet has our grills on it. The King Ranch has several of our grills on it. Hatteras Yachts, the only yacht maker in America, has exclusively our grills, because we had a better idea. And what does that mean to all of you? That means if you have a better idea than your employer, if you're sitting there in a mundane, boring job and you figured out how to make a better box, you too have the opportunity in America to someday be selling shares to your company with that better idea. That doesn't happen everywhere else. Those of us who have been stationed in Europe recognize I was there when the wall came down. The West Germans were so excited because the East Germans were flooding over to the West. And the West said, great, we're going to have a bunch of laborers now to fill the positions that were unfilled because they were laborers. And the East Germans came over and said, wait a minute. Your rules are, if I have a university degree, I get to sit around on my hip pockets waiting for a job that I qualify for at university level. And he said, well, Well, if you're going to play that way, so what did the West Germans do? They ran back across the border, found their relative's house, which now was occupied by 15 to 20 different individuals, and said, "This is our house." What a mess. The reason I bring this up is European ways aren't working in Europe. And we have an administration that is leaning us towards European ways. I fly fish in Scotland every year. I don't catch anything. That's why we don't call it catching. We just call it fly fishing.
You drink the single malt scotch.
I start on the top left of the shelf and I do continuing education. Now, there's some bad scotch out there, but I tried thinking it's going to improve with age. It doesn't. But the difference is they don't have the freedom that we do. They don't understand that freedom. Our forefathers had it right. They understood that all men are flawed. So they devised a government that was of the people, by the people, and for the people. Which meant that we had to elect representatives out of our neighborhoods to represent us. The French had a revolution very similar to ours, and their decision was if we just elected the right people to government, that they would be smart enough to know how to tax us, know how to spend it, that would make us prosperous. And I've thought about that. Wouldn't that be a lot easier? You wouldn't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning, go to work. You could just sit there and elect the right people into office. It has never worked. It never will work. We were a young country and we were the greatest exporter of ideas. We exported the idea of freedom from religion. Not what some parties will like to convince you is freedom of religion. We didn't try to take separation of church and state. We said that the government could not dictate what religion Americans would be. That we were going to have a freedom of religion. When I joined the Army, we had about 6 basic religions. When I left the Army, we had 144. Whew. I wasn't in that long. Good point. I didn't hold George Washington's horse. But think about the fact that we recognize that men had flaws, that the government should not have any more power than what the people gave it, and that the government should be responsible for providing the environment for me to be prosperous. So I bring this up because we are in a cultural war right now. All of us are looking at outreach programs. We're inviting folks to come in and say, look, I'm a pretty darn obvious Dutch-German girl by the color of my hair and the size of my backside. Just recently, my shoulders shrunk. But that means I can't walk into a community. I can't tell them what is so unique about America, and that my core principles of respect, responsibility, and resourcefulness are your core principles. And it's those core principles that we're fighting for. It's those core principles that we are tied up in an ideological battle. Outreach has to start from all of you. You have to beat us up. I have several of our Republican women here. If we had the magic wand, Mitt Romney would have won across America. Because we would have been able to sell our better idea and turn out everybody that looked like us to vote. It doesn't work that way. You all have to be the messengers. You all have to be the one that says, look, the Democrats are feeding you a line of making you feel comfortable in your poverty, are feeding you a line that what you are going to receive for free is truly going to be free. I truly believe in the last 30 years we have watched a crumbling of what makes America unique in the fact that we have offered up excuses. How do you raise strong children if you don't have strong families? How do you raise strong children if you don't have strong faith that there's a higher power? I don't care who you worship. I don't care if you're a druid. You should be allowed to worship and recognize that your rights don't come from anyone, but what you do with those rights matters. We have a government right now that has, for the last 30 years, the folks of his ilk, the elite left, has tried to convince all of us, our neighbors, our friends, that you don't need religion in your life and you don't need a family. We can replace both of those with government programs. We're on the verge of being the first generation to leave the next generation in worse shape than we received it. And they're the first generation that is going to inherit a nation that is worse than what we have. To me, that is unacceptable. Our outreach program starts right here. It starts right here because you all have to be mad enough to articulate that. You all have to help us. Bernie showed me the RNC wanted to put out a Spanish translation of all of the lies that Obama, Clinocchio was so easy to do. Obama, this didn't work. And I agree. If we put out a piece of paper to someone who doesn't speak English, even though we had the translation, with Obama's picture all over it, it looks like a piece of campaign material for Obama. So guess whose hair got lit on fire? That's what we have to do. Our hair has to get lit on fire. We are about to come out with a resolution from the Federation that has been studying and trying to come up with a position on immigration. It's not black and white. It has to be a combination of things. We have to be able to soften our language. I don't know if you've had Brad Bailey come and speak to you. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to meet him. But here's a guy who on his own, well, with a think tank, was able to present a Texas solution to our state convention and get it passed into our platform, which was a legal guest worker program. We have folks that look like me in the party that hair would be lit on fire. So it's not the fact that all of us blonde, good-looking Republican women think alike. We have folks that want to secure the border, want to round everybody who's illegal up, put them on a bus and send them back. It just sounds easy. It's not easy. A legal guest worker program. What I love is when you talk about illegal immigration, when you talk about undocumented immigrants, we're never talking about the person that's cleaning my house or cutting my grass. We're talking about the person who's painting the house on the other side of the street.
Oh, God.
We've got to recognize that there is not a blend. There is not a scarlet letter. There is not some child that came here with their parents who was born here in this country who knows nothing about their original country. We have to be the party of better ideas. We have to be the party that gets input from all of you. When we do something stupid, guaranteed it's going to happen, you've got to have your hair get lit on fire. You've got to stand up and object. If you're not heard the first time, object again. That's what America's about. We have a right to assembly in this room. We have a right to free speech. But guarantee you, not everyone who speaks is right. We have to be, I'm Miss Republican in my neighborhood. I'm the one that everybody knows is out there working politics all the time. When election time comes up, I get phone calls. Who do I vote for? Who are these judges? You are now the conservative members of a Hispanic community. I will go anywhere with you into any home to sit down and talk about what our core principles are. How my mom would be cleaning toilets in McDonald's before she ever accepted a handout from her government. That wasn't her core principles. Now we have, and I'll tell you why I know this. Every Thursday, my mom drug my sister and I down to our church, because that was our night. We did a soup kitchen out of our church in Chicago. The difference was when Marge came through that line, my mom knew Marge. She would have a comment, Marge, how are you? Marge, it's cold out, where's your jacket? Marge would go, I don't know. I don't have a jacket. What would the Van Dormolen clan do? They would go back, dig through the closets, find Marge a jacket. And the next time we saw her, she had our jacket on. Food stamps came out. Now Marge is walking around figuring out how to beat the system. Now she's gotten a handout, not from someone who cared about her, but from a government who only knew her name was on a piece of paper. And the Marges of the world said, wow, if I can get free food stamps in Chicago, why don't I just go to Michigan, apply for food stamps there? And we had a degrading of what made America unique. It's a cultural war, and we better be ready to stand up. We better be ready to be able to fight back. And I'm asking you, because we know the demographics that this group represents, that we're going to have to pull in our neighbors. We're going to have to make them feel brave enough to stand up against free to something that is self-esteem. And that's not going to be easy. It will be when we encourage them, because we had a handful of Americans who stood up and said, we're going to take on the British. The strongest navy, the strongest military in the world. And we decided to take them on because we had been taxed enough. We wanted to be free. But more so, now think about the history of Texas. The colonists came west for a better life. We supported Santa Anna against Bustamante as the popular candidate. Once he was elected, sound familiar? Once he was elected, he announced, I'm going to stop letting colonists come, and the ones that are here, I'm going to take your guns. That was like an electrical shock that went through Texas. Because what did a gun represent at that time? The ability to defend yourself against Indians, highway robbers, and it also represented the way you fed your family. And from that single electrifying comment, we stood up and we held the Alamo and we changed the history of Texas. And that's what makes us more unique than any other state I've ever lived in. And that's what makes me brag as your national committee member on how Texas does it. We're the standard bearers. If we could get more states to act like us.
Amen.
Some crazy folks out there, I mean, we've got our fringe element, but we've got to come together on those things we have in common. We've got to bond together on those things we have in common. Not stop the debate. Let the fringe debate occur on the end, but don't let the Democrats shape what we look like by taking one of our extreme ideas and painting us into a box. We've got to bond together that we don't want more federal spending, we don't want more taxes, we don't want more regulations, but what we do want is more freedom. Freedom to be Americans. So I'm not reaching out to you. One of my favorite comments, and I'm sure a couple in the room have heard this, Hispanic outreach has to be more than us running a fundraiser and hiring a mariachi band.
Yes, ma'am.
It's got to be getting into the living rooms and getting into the neighborhoods. Roy will tell you when he was running for mayor of Houston, the wonderful experience we had. I can't remember the lady's house, the home that gave us the house. We pulled up our coolers, we barbecued on Sundays and Saturdays. People came out from all over the woodwork and we talked what being an American meant. And we came close. We came darn close. Closer than most folks realized. 4,000 folks switching. We'd be going, Mr. Mayor. So stand up and reach out to Americans. No one has denied me my heritage. No one should deny you your heritage. But I'm not hyphenated. I'm proud to be an American. I'm asking you to be proud to be an American and help us build the force we need to win. Because I'll tell you one thing that I've learned in my life, my very short 60 years on this earth. When I joined the Army in 1974, African Americans made up 14% of the population. Today they make up 15.5% of the population. When I came to Texas, the population of Hispanics in Texas was nowhere close to what the population of Hispanics are now. We have got to get them on the winning team to save America, not to end America. I'm getting the hook. It's been a pleasure to talk to all of you. God bless you all. Do great things. I'll answer questions.
Questions? Get ready primero. Everyone looking at me. Oh, wow.
Just a comment. When my family came to Texas, there were no white people.
There you go. No, very good point. Okay. So I want to make a quick presentation because one of the things that Bernadette and I talked about on the phone the other day is there is not a copy that we can find or ever saw of a Hispanic translation or a Spanish translation of the Constitution in Spanish. So I didn't find one, but this is a copy of the Constitution. This is a leather-bound Constitution that this is to challenge you to help us find, because don't you wish our platform would fit in something this small? Maybe we could attract more folks. So thank you for inviting me. Continue doing great things.
Thank you.
Okay, open fire.
I just wanted to say one thing. I'm with the state party, and this past election cycle, we put out a lot of opinions on the Republican Party of Texas and the Hispanic voters. I just want y'all, there's some sitting on the table, like this one, I don't like it, but I just wanted to have y'all's opinion, especially on this one and this one. I think y'all might be interested, and I'd love to know what you have to say. This one went statewide. This is Republicans versus Democrats. It's in English on one side and Spanish on the other. It seemed to be very effective in some counties. But I have a few copies if y'all want to take some more, but I'd love to find out what you have to say about these.
Great point. I want to bring this up too. Republicans versus Democrats. Democrats are so much better at naming bills. What was health care? What was Obamacare called? What was its real name? Affordable Health Care Act. What was the act that allowed Hispanics that came here as children that had no country to go back to? The Dream Act. One of the best bills to help us reach out to Hispanics was just submitted by Lamar Smith, Congressman Lamar Smith. Anybody know the name of it? STEM. STEM. I have blasted Senator Cornyn. I have blasted Lamar Smith. I have blasted my congressman. STEM. What does that conjure up?
Stem cells.
Talks about STEM. I mean, you're thinking stem cell. It's about science, technology, engineering, and medicine. That if you are a foreign national that are going to school here, or if you're a minority and you're going to school here and you're excelling in the science, technology, engineering, and medicine, we're going to give you a leg up. We're going to help you. So I've charged the, one of the things I get to brag about, the Pachyderm Club in San Antonio is the largest pachyderm club in all of the United States, 80% Hispanic. I've charged them with renaming that bill.
The same thing's true in business. What's the concept behind fracking? Being in the military, you know what that means, right?
Yes, getting demoted out rather than fracking without a K.
Right.
And thank God for fracking. It pays. Married a deep-rooted Texan.
Since Tina, and I'd like help from my Latinos, from Anthony and also from Sam. This card would have been okay to a certain extent, since you're asking me to evaluate it. If I had to say, let's redo this, I would have put promises to us immigrants that came to America. Because then we would relate to that, because number one, we are immigrants. But if you were to say promises to Americans who live here, well, we want to, we're still feeling like we're immigrants, because we're between visas, becoming American citizens, taking the oath, working on it, getting the papers. So the Democrats are telling us, you're an immigrant. We're immigrants, we came here and everything. So the Latinos would say, but you're an immigrant too. You all came here. You all are immigrants, not only us. So I would have used the word that would have brought us together. And this is the reason, my dear members, this is the very reason, and Anthony can back this, that I put the effort into this group, is to make sure that the proper words and the proper presentations come forth. And I don't mind stepping on toes and foot in a polite way to make sure that it's going to be addressed. After all these years that I've put this group together since 2008, I have not cared to become an auxiliary because I didn't need anyone to tell me how to do outreach or anything. But if I'm going to take the next step forward, after meeting Tina, after meeting Borah, after meeting Becky, after meeting these wonderful people that are leaving their homes, traveling 3 hours to come to this meeting and doing all this, then it was worth it for this group to become an auxiliary. For me to do my share for this group. And each of us in this group, RHCIA, is going to be the voice. We are going to be the lobbyists within this group to help our Republican Party. It's not help the RPT, but it's to help the GOP across the land. Our voice is going to be lobbying. That's why, Anthony, I need you. That's why I need you. That's why I need everyone in here, Latinos. Because Bernadette is not perfect in naming or coming out with things. But at least the grassroots in me will say, that ain't gonna fly. And redo it, and I would say, I like it, give it to me. I'm driving to DC. So I just want you to know, please help us in this group. We're turning a corner now. As an auxiliary, we are turning the corner, going down a road that I am not too familiar with. I need the support, I need the backing, and I need your voices to make this possible. I cannot do it by myself. I need for every one of you to begin to invite your friends and let this be the lobbyists in this group. We are lobbying our voices, and we are helping the Republican Party is to understand our ways is also their ways, and their ways will become our ways. Let's just make the English phrases to be cohesive with our heart. Thank you.
And a very good point. We need to know the horror stories. We want to hear, I have a very good friend who got his citizenship, went to renew his passport. That means 10 years have transpired since he had come to this, since he had gotten his citizenship and gotten his passport. When he went to renew it, whoever typed his passport made a typo on his birthday. We found the supporting documents that showed that it was the person who typed the document that had the error that he didn't catch. 2 years he has been back in his home country waiting for a typo to be fixed.
Oh my God.
When it's easier to come here illegally than it is to come here legally, we have got to have some legitimate immigration reform. If someone's going to spend $15,000 to get back in the back of an 18-wheeler and come over here in 120-degree heat, then why don't we have a center where you can pay that $15,000 to someone legitimate and come in freely? We've got to fix the antiquated immigration policy, and I don't have those answers. All I know, from my perspective, is I don't think we can have legitimate immigration reform until we legitimately reform our welfare system. But those aren't going to go hand in hand. Politicians aren't going to work like that. They do when we have our voices.
Correct.
And so, jump on the bandwagon. You need to tell folks, why are you not coming to this meeting? We are not out trying to recruit Republican women, or shame on us if we're saying we want to recruit Hispanic Republican women to come to our Republican Women's Clubs. We're trying to recruit women with different backgrounds, different economic, ethnic, racial, education. It doesn't matter, because we are a powerful voice. You need to be a powerful voice.
Yeah.
You need to get involved in Tea Party, County Party. You need to get out there and say enough is enough, and be the representative in your community where you can drag 5, 6, 7, 8 others with you. Pack this room. Close the place. Just for this organization on this night. God, we can win.
Yeah.
We can return to what made our grandparents come to this country. What made us married gentlemen who brought us to this country and discovered that this is where we wanted to live. God bless you all. Please be safe heading home.
Before you all leave, I wanted to let you know I am the liaison to the Auxiliary Committee for the Republican Hispanic Citizens in Action. And I joined your club last year and am rejoining. My sister-in-law is Hispanic, so my nieces are half. And one of them just got accepted and is doing her first semester at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. Her mother is a teacher in the Valley. And I need people like you to help us go to people like her who actually have influence within her community. She has always been a Democrat, but she came with me when I ran for office and realized that Republicans had some really good ideas, but she didn't know how to get it through to the other people that she saw. We have to have input from you. Yeah. We do not know all your cultural innuendos, how to behave. Talk to us. Let me know when we do it wrong. Because we really and truly have the same values you do. We just come from European backgrounds versus Mexican backgrounds or Cuban backgrounds or Puerto Rican or Nicaraguan or whatever. But you know, my family came from France, Scotland, Britain. They came in the 1700s. They've been here a long time, but they still came here. So we're all immigrants. Some of us are fresher than others. So we need your help. And Bernadette has been invited to my Senate district meeting in Gonzales, Texas on January the 19th to present your organization to our entire district, which is 21 counties. Of course, it's only 7 precincts in Harris County and only 1 precinct in Nueces County, but the rest of it's all counties. So we would love to have some of you come so that you can be there, because she's not going to be able to talk to everyone and all of our county chairmen that are coming. And it would be nice to have some of you show up to show support for your organization and to be able to visit with the people that will be there. So I would really appreciate it if you could make it. And it's posted on the Facebook page, Texas Senate District 18. So you can find it there, or you can call Bernadette because she's got the information too. Thanks.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight, and I hope everybody enjoyed the meal. This is a new place that we're meeting at now. I think this is the first time we've ever met here for Telly's from the Adobe. We have one more short announcement that I'm sorry. Roy Morales, I'm sorry.
For my fellow Houstonians, I'm currently a Harris County School Trustee, where during the 6 years, I either froze your property taxes or we reduced it. I have a track record. Next week is my last day as a trustee, but starting today, I am a candidate for Houston City Council at large, position 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, and God bless all of you all.